My name's Talia. I'm an international history and politics student graduate from Leeds, and I'm about to do my Masters at King's in Intelligence and International Security in London starting in September. So today we came very early in the morning and we went straight away to the 1000-year history of Jewish Life Museum. We then walked around where the museum is actually built on, which is in the Warsaw Ghetto itself. The Warsaw Ghetto was destroyed by the Nazis and by the bombing that occurred afterwards. So none of the actual ghetto, very little of it remains. So when you walk outside, we have an amazing tour guide from Poland, and she was able to point out to us things that an average person would probably miss. We went to a memorial site that was erected in the 1980s by a Jewish architect to commemorate the Warsaw Ghetto, and it was extremely moving. There was the name in alphabetical order of every single Jewish person who ever lived in the ghetto, lived and died and survived. Afterwards, we went to the Jewish cemetery in Warsaw. It was a Jewish cemetery like no other I've ever been before. It was extremely ornate. There were so many different graves in it, and we learned some fascinating things that I never knew about the Warsaw Ghetto, because at one point the cemetery was just out the boundary of the Warsaw Ghetto between natural life in Warsaw. After the cemetery, we went to the Jewish Institute, and this building is remarkable in the fact that it stands exactly next to where the Great Synagogue of Warsaw used to stand. And whilst the synagogue was destroyed by the Nazis as a punishment for the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, the building itself still stands. The fire scorched floors are still there, and walking on them and understanding that this building survived despite all that, sometimes it gives you goosebumps and makes you realise just how special we are to experience this today, and it honours the people who were lost by knowing that we can still go there and remember them. In the Jewish Institute, there was a special exhibition showing the Ringelblum Archive, which was an archive that was organised by a Jewish member of the Warsaw Ghetto who understood that potentially there wouldn't be any survivors of this atrocity and wanted to archive what was happening for future generations to know that this actually happened. There's a lot of mythology about it. The archives were collected by various people. Somebody was in charge of documenting how medicines were kept, etc. And they were hidden in milk cans and buried beneath the Warsaw Ghetto. It was said that there was 3 milk cans, and after the war, people went and searched for them. 2 were found. Some people say that there was never actually a 3rd milk can, but it's not found today. The remnants of the archives were on display at the museum, including one letter that was thrown out of a cattle cart on its way to Auschwitz and mailed back to a family to tell them basically that their loved ones were going to die. It was very difficult to describe the emotions I was feeling at this point in time. Anger, sadness, happiness at the fact that that person's memory can't be lost because of the very existence of this archive, but it's almost indescribable. We went to the Warsaw Zoo, which is an incredible story that rivals the Anne Frank House in Holland. The owners of the zoo, who were not Jewish themselves but were very connected to the Jewish community and could see what was happening outside their borders, used the zoo over the years of the wars to help over 300 different Jews in either to escape the ghetto, to hide them for a couple of days before they could move them on, using the Polish underground, which the husband who owned the zoo was deeply connected to. They did this right under the Nazis' nose, and using methods such as playing the piano to signal when the Nazis were coming, walking around the villa which the zookeeper and his wife lived in and where the Jews stayed in the basement below, was eerie, but also one of those magical moments that you can only physically go there to experience. Touching the desks, seeing the settees, seeing the piano, seeing the kitchen where these people lived in such close proximity to where the Nazis were outside, and seeing where the Jews were cramped below in the basement. It gives you a sense of wonder but also a sense of achievement, and the owners of the zoo have a memory given to them by Yad Vashem by having a position in the righteous among nations. And it fills me with joy to know that these people's stories are recognised, because they are as important as the victims of the Holocaust, those people who stuck their head out above the pulpit and put themselves in danger to help just even one Jew.